Hey everybody. This is going to be a short one today. It's a Sunday. I'm getting into my workday kind of late, so gonna get in and out of here. But we're gonna answer the question of whether too much riboflavin can cause headaches. Before I do that, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that I have just this morning released the Vitamins and Minerals 101 Cliff Notes, and so these are you could view them in two ways. One way to view them would be a distillation of all the most essential practical points from the 29 lessons of the Vitamins and Minerals 101 course, which is in the process of becoming the Vitamins and Minerals 101 book, which I'm trying to finish right now. And that book is much more expansive than the course. So the course, the free course, is basically the middle part two of the book, so the middle third of the book, and you could view them as the cliff notes of that class, where everything that's key and practical is kind of taken into one place, and made short and easy to go through. Although by short I mean 27 pages. But another way to view it would be basically the distillation of all the most practical points that I've collated about all the essential vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids in the last 20 years of my research into a 27-page PDF. So it's only $2.99. It's a tall coffee or half of a fancy coffee at Starbucks or whatever. So you can get that at chrismasterjohnphd.com/cliffnotes. If you already pre-ordered the book, or if you're a MasterPass member, you got that as a free gift. And otherwise, you can get it for $2.99. So I would, of course, if you value my content, I'd be very grateful. You could view that as a nice way to tip me as well. So chrismasterjohnphd.com/cliffnotes for those. It just came out today, hot off the presses. Saw a few questions on when's the book going to be out. I greatly appreciate everyone's support and patience while I'm finishing the book. I don't have a release date yet. When I was first working on it, before it got interrupted by COVID, I was hoping to get it out rather quickly, but right now I'm making it the best it can be. And I think everyone, I'm super excited to get into everyone's hands, and I'm really happy with the way it's coming out. So no release date, but I am desperately hoping to get it out before the end of spring. Anyway, on to today's question. Today's question comes from Celeste, and this is from the Vitamins and Minerals 101 Premium Forum. And Celeste says, "Hey, Chris, I had a riboflavin deficiency and supplemented with riboflavin USP drops, and it gave me headaches. Even after I stopped, I still have headaches. Why would riboflavin give me give someone headaches?" And then one person comments and says, "You're right, it is puzzling. See this website," and then posts a link to headaches.org, 2007 post on vitamin B2, where they discuss how riboflavin can help prevent or treat migraine headaches. So it's definitely the case that one of the treatments that's most promising for migraines is riboflavin, and it comes in at least 2 to 400 milligrams, which is an exceedingly high dose of riboflavin to treat these, which makes me think that the riboflavin really is not acting nutritionally, but is acting to fix some dysfunctional proteins. And the reason that I think that is that there are some genetic defects that can be treated with these types of high doses of riboflavin. I've made some Chris Master John Light videos on this in the past. Now, when they first started treating genetic defects in riboflavin metabolism with high dose riboflavin, it wasn't that surprising, because you can rationalize it like, well, they have a defective enzyme, so therefore you need a high dose of riboflavin. The normal enzyme would function with a normal dose of riboflavin, but the defective enzyme will only work with high doses of riboflavin. But then they started finding that high doses of riboflavin can fix genetic disorders that have nothing to do with riboflavin metabolism. And that was a surprise. And that led to findings that riboflavin acts as a chaperone during the folding of proteins. And so there are genetic disorders that can lead to misfolded proteins in things that have nothing to do with riboflavin metabolism, but riboflavin helps fold the protein correctly. And so I would imagine that there might be something similar going on with migraines because the studies that use under 200 milligrams a day don't seem to be very effective, whereas studies using 200 to 400 milligrams per day do seem effective. And so this link that the National Headache Foundation posted sort of doesn't make any sense because they say especially good sources of vitamin B2 are eggs, lean meat, milk, broccoli, and enriched breads and cereals. Yeah, fine, but you're not going to get 200 to 400 milligrams per day from any of those foods. You can't get that from food. So I'm of the tentative opinion, until we understand it better, that probably high dose riboflavin is helping to just really saturate the cells with, extra riboflavin, just maximize, flood the cell with riboflavin to help maximize the proper folding of some proteins that are being misfolded. And that doesn't have to be a genetic disorder. It could just be, a lot of people are familiar with the term oxidative stress, which is, Sketchy Sky says, can you put in a link to the PDF? I want to buy it right now. Yeah, well, I'll put in a link in a, hold on one second. I'll put the link in. Okay. All right. So anyone who's in the live chat right here can just follow the link that's in there. If you're watching this later, chrismasterjohnphd.com/cliff-notes, and I'll put a link in the description once I'm finished recording this. So anyway, in order, protein folding isn't just about genetically defective proteins. You can also have, people are familiar with the term oxidative stress, which I like to, for people who don't have a biochemistry background, I like to describe that as the wear and tear on your tissues that you would naturally find with aging, but which gets accelerated in certain disease states or exposure to environmental toxins, or heavy metals, or disorders of energy metabolism, including things like diabetes and so on. And of course, if you are familiar with biochemistry, you understand oxidative stress in much more detail. There's also something called ER stress, which is endoplasmic reticulum stress. Endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, is where you fold proteins inside the cell. And ER stress it's very much sort of, it's like the protein folding analog of oxidative stress. So, there's too much going on there relative to your capacity to handle the protein folding, and stuff gets misfolded, is a simple way to think about it. So that can be caused by, generally where you find oxidative stress, you're probably also going to find ER stress and vice versa. So generally speaking, with the underlying disease process that can contribute to oxidative stress, it's probably causing ER stress. High-dose riboflavin might correct that. And I did a video on why high-dose riboflavin might be like a sort of like a lucky a lucky lottery ticket type of treatment for random things that you can't pinpoint. Because if high-dose riboflavin can treat rare genetic disorders that have nothing to do with riboflavin metabolism, and you have no idea what's causing a health problem that no one can fix, and high-dose riboflavin is relatively harmless, then, it's like playing the lottery, but maybe it'll work. But Celeste's question is the inverse of this. Celeste is saying, I had a riboflavin deficiency and supplemented with riboflavin USP drops, and it gave me headaches. Even after I stopped, I still have headaches. Why would riboflavin give someone headaches? So I can't really answer that question with anything more than a guess. But I would say a couple things. So first of all, the most convincing evidence that riboflavin is causing the headaches is if you take the riboflavin, the headaches come on. You take the riboflavin out. Sorry, it's real windy out. I don't know if you can hear that. You take the riboflavin out, the headaches go away. You put the riboflavin back in, the headaches come back. If you could do that in a randomized fashion, that would be extremely convincing. If you just put the riboflavin in and out, the headaches come in, go away, that's pretty convincing. If you put the riboflavin in, the headaches come, then they never go away, then if they lag and it goes away in a couple of weeks, then maybe it was riboflavin. But I would say there's a decent chance it's a coincidence if they just never go away. So it might be a total coincidence. And then, but I will speculate a couple things that a couple problems riboflavin might be causing. So I would also, before I get to that, I would also say that generally when you are fixing a deficiency, you might get some If you fix it too fast, it's conceivable that you could get some negative results from that. Because, and I don't know why this would happen in riboflavin, but it is possible that something playing around with vasodilation or something playing around with neurotransmitters or something like that, that is a riboflavin responsive pathway might be kind of turned all the way up or turned all the way down to try to compensate for deficiency. And if you fix it too quick, then to the extent that pathway does influence vasodilation or vasoconstriction or neurotransmitter balance, then you might have a short-term compensatory reaction. And I've talked about this in the context of methylfolate in the past. I have a video why methylfolate might make you does methylfolate make you angry or depressed? And so I think in that case, it's sort of like your body's used to low methylfolate levels. You turn up the volume on the methyltransferase. It's sort of like if your TV was dysfunctioning, and or your hearing was dysfunctioning, and so you turn the TV all the way up to the top, and then all of a sudden whatever was wrong with your hearing is suddenly fixed, and your ears blow out from the loud volume. So maybe something like that is happening, in which case the solution, I think, would just across the board would be, don't take a deficiency and throw the highest doses in. Just ease into it over time. So take a very low dose and ease into the higher dose. With that said, to actually answer the question, are there any conceivable reasons why high dose riboflavin could cause headaches? Well, it can't be the most common thing for this to happen, because especially the migraine studies where they're using 400 milligrams per day, I guess it's possible that in headache studies that might be the worst place to detect such an adverse effect, because the people already have headaches. So I guess if riboflavin caused the headache, you might you might not detect it. But high dose riboflavin has been used quite a bit, and it's not been reported to my knowledge. But I would say, what are the potential adverse effects of riboflavin? Well, riboflavin doesn't have any kind of syndrome of toxicity, and in general, you just pee out extra riboflavin. However, I can think of two things that I would speculate as potential reasons why high dose riboflavin might cause a problem. So one would be that riboflavin is it's very easily oxidized, especially in the presence of light, and so it's conceivable that the oxidation products of riboflavin, particularly in someone who's tanning or is otherwise exposed to a lot of sunshine, it's conceivable that you could have some kind of acceleration of oxidative stress. And where I think of that is there's an eye disease called keratoconus, and it is treated by putting riboflavin on the cornea, or part of the surgery involves putting riboflavin on the cornea and then blasting it with light. And what riboflavin actually does when that happens is it gets oxidized and it facilitates the cross-linking of the collagen. And so it is the case that light oxidized riboflavin can then do things to things nearby it. So that's one thing. And then I don't have the study on hand, but I did come across a study a while back where individual vitamins were supplemented, and blood levels of the different B vitamins were measured before and after. And basically, they didn't test all the B vitamins. They tested a handful, and I believe, if I remember correctly, riboflavin was one of them. They basically showed that if you supplement one B vitamin at a high dose, you can suppress the levels of the other B vitamins in the blood. And that doesn't really show, that it causes headaches, but it does make me wonder if you look at the biochemistry of these things, they're all cooperating with each other, right? So, quite often there's an enzymatic system where riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, and thiamine are all, and lipoic acid, for good measure, are all used in this one enzymatic reaction. So you would expect that they could drive each other into certain pathways, right? So like, and I think the most interesting case where it has been demonstrated that this has a clinical effect is there are case reports of people with B12 deficiency where the neurological degeneration signs were precipitated by high dose folate. And many people, it's typically taught in textbooks and classes that folate can mask a B12 deficiency. And that's because folate can basically cure the anemia of B12 deficiency, because anemia of B12 deficiency really isn't anemia of B12 deficiency. It's because when you don't have B12, you can't take the methyl group off of methylfolate, and you wind up with a deficiency of unmethylated folate. It's called the methyl trap. And so many people are aware that if you throw in a lot of folate, it doesn't matter if all the methylfolate gets trapped, because you had the folate that you ate to cure the anemia. And so I think it's very common for people to be aware that high dose folate or high intake of folate from vegetables can mask a B12 deficiency. But what people are less aware of is that high dose folate might be able to precipitate the neurological degeneration caused by B12 deficiency. And in fact, that's part of the basis for why the Institute of Medicine set the upper limit of folate at 1,000 micrograms of supplemental folate per day, not food folate, only supplemental folate. And so it's, in these case reports, it's hard to know whether supplementing with folate was a coincidence that the neurological degeneration started right after the folate supplementation. But the hypothesis would be that B12 deficiency neurological degeneration is primarily from the role that B12 plays in clearing methylmalonyl CoA to succinyl CoA. And, a major reason to believe that would be that it's unique to B12 deficiency. If the neurological degeneration was primarily driven by deficient methylation, you'd get the same neurological degeneration in folate deficiency, but you don't. You get the same neurological it would be influenced by choline as well. So anything that caused a deficiency of methyl groups would cause that neurological degeneration. It doesn't. It's unique to B12 deficiency. So it's probably a result of B12 converting methylmalonyl CoA to succinyl CoA and that being absent. And so if folate participates with B12, then more folate coming in methylation, then more folate coming in might take B12 into the methylation pathway and make it less available for the conversion of malonyl CoA to succinyl CoA. So it's possible that there's something analogous where if you put in high dose, 400 milligrams of riboflavin into the system, that you will then start taking things that riboflavin participates with into those pathways. And so, as an example, it might start drawing on, just to throw out a random example, it might start drawing on niacin into the NAD, into NAD, and specifically into the energy metabolism enzymes that that use NAD, and that might take it, that might take limited niacin away from NADPH and the recycling of glutathione and the protection against oxidative stress. That might take niacin. It could take NAD conceivably. I'm just speculating. Could take NAD away from PARPs that repair DNA damage. It could take niacin away from sirtuins and telomerases and so on in the kind of cellular longevity area. And so these things are possible, right? So it's quite possible that it's taking a B vitamin or multiple B vitamins into the pathways that it's participating in and away from other pathways. And so, that might be, and it might just be, taking niacin away from NADPH, aggravating oxidative stress. That might be underlying the headaches. But, it could be that that's a sign that there's other B vitamins that are deficient. So as a general principle, because there's no toxicity of high dose riboflavin, as a general rule, I'm fine with high dose riboflavin. However, I still generally think that you should try to keep these B vitamins, relatively close to the high end of what you could get from diet, or the high end of what there is evidence for as a physiological need. And there's definitely no case to be made whatsoever that anyone has a physiological demand for 400 milligrams of riboflavin a day. And I think often people get confused about, because something's a vitamin, therefore this is nutritional. But no, when something is a vitamin coming in at dietary doses that are relevant to what you can get from food and relevant to what you can demonstrate are physiological demands for the same roles that are played by the doses you get from food, that is nutritional. When you are doing something that cannot be done with doses that you get from food by activating pathways that are not activated by doses that you can get from food, then that thing is not nutritional, it's pharmacological. So until we understand it better, I'm viewing 400 milligrams riboflavin a day as an apparently exceedingly safe pharmacological use of a thing otherwise known as a nutrient. And so, unless you are purposefully doing that, if you're trying to fix a deficiency, I think that it is better to err on the side of using the upper range of what you could get from food before you go into high doses. And I don't say that this is sort of like a strong opinion loosely held. I'll give that opinion up quickly if someone shows that they're benefiting from 400 milligrams of riboflavin, because there's basically close to zero downside risk. But Celeste developing headaches on the riboflavin might be an example of one of the negative consequences that some people could get by with doses of riboflavin that they don't really need. So how dangerous is it? I would say really, really, really low risk. But is it zero risk? Probably not. And those are my thoughts. Okay, real quickly, I'm going to look through the live chat here. I don't really know anything about phenylethylamine off the top of my head. Can some B vitamins cause eye twitching? Harut says. Well, certainly many B vitamins prevent eye twitching, especially thiamine. And so I would just go back to everything that I just said about why high doses of one B vitamin might cause imbalances of the other. And certainly riboflavin and thiamine participate in many roles, right? So yeah, I think if apart from the B vitamins that have toxicity syndromes like niacin and B6 especially, I would err on the side of believing that if another B vitamin causes eye twitching, it's probably causing an imbalance with the B vitamin that prevents twitching. And I wouldn't limit that to thiamine, but thiamine would be the first one that I'd look for, because clinical thiamine deficiency heavily involves the muscles around the eye. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's all I have for today. I'm off to work on the book, and had a great time with you guys, and I'll try to keep doing this once a day if I can. That's all for tonight. So remember to like the video, share the video if it's shareable, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And of course, you can get the Cliff Notes that just came out today at chrismasterjohnphd.com/cliffnotes. And I'll put that link in the description as well. All right. Take care, guys.